My brother insisted that I hand over my house because he had a baby. Now he's calling me a backstab. Okay, prepare yourself because this isn't just about a house anymore. This is about family, betrayal, and a secret that completely shattered everything I thought I knew. Can you even imagine your own brother looking you dead in the eye and demanding you hand over your home? The one you love, the one you poured your heart into. Just because he had a baby? And then, when you refuse, having your entire family turn on you, calling you the selfish one, the traitor? That's what happened to me. And honestly, it only got wilder from there. It started innocently enough just last week. My brother Mark showed up at my door completely unannounced. He had his newborn cradled in one arm, and a folder of papers clutched in the other. I figured, okay, new dad probably needs advice or maybe just a break. I even offered him coffee. But before I could pour it, he just cut me off cold. You don't need this house anymore, he said, his voice flat. You should give it to us. We've got a baby now. I actually laughed. I thought it was one of his ridiculous jokes, you know? But then I saw his face. Dead serious. No punchline. Just that demand. I just stared, trying to process. When I finally asked him what on earth he was talking about, he launched into this long, dramatic story. Apparently, he and his wife Jessica were barely making ends meet in their tiny apartment. Their landlord had raised the rent, the baby was expensive, yada yada yada. And because I'm single and financially stable, he decided I should just hand over my house. My home. Let me tell you about this house. It was my grandparents', the place I spent every single summer, filled with the best memories. When they passed, they left it to me. It's not some grand mansion, but it is unequivocally my dream home. When it became mine, I poured everything into it. My savings, my sweat, my soul. New kitchen, new floors, updated plumbing. It's not just bricks and mortar. It's my sanctuary, my safe space. I tried to stay calm. I really did. I looked at Mark and said, "Look, I'm genuinely sorry you're struggling, but this house was left to me. I've worked so hard to make it my own." But he just wouldn't drop it. "You don't have a family," he shot back, his voice rising. "It's selfish to keep this all to yourself when we have a child to think about." And then Jessica, who I guess had been strategically waiting in the car, suddenly appeared. She started chiming in, going on about family helping family. The audacity. She even said they'd already planned out how to make this space work for their growing family. Planned out. She actually suggested I could just rent a nice apartment somewhere. Since I'm just one person. I was dumbfounded. My blood started to boil. I told them flat out, "This is my home. I am not giving it up." And that's when things went from ridiculous to absolutely nasty. Jessica started this fake-sounding crying, saying things like, "I knew she wouldn't understand. She's always been selfish." Mark got more aggressive, accusing me of hoarding resources, actually saying, "It's not fair that you have all this while we're struggling." At this point, I was shaking with anger. My voice was barely steady as I told them to leave. But as he stormed out, Mark dropped that folder of papers onto my coffee table. "Think about it," he said. "It's what's best for the family." When they finally left, I just sat there staring at the folder. Inside, documents. Suggested timelines for my move out, their budget for maintaining my house, even a draft letter to my HOA informing them of the change in ownership. They had planned this like it was a done deal. The level of entitlement was sickening. The next day it got worse. My parents called. And guess what? They were on Mark's side. My mom, in that sweet, sickly voice, said, "You don't need such a big place, sweetheart. Mark has a baby now, and it's only fair to prioritize the family." My dad chimed in with, "You're single, you have flexibility. They don't." I tried to explain to make them understand, but it was like talking to a brick wall. Every time I said no, they made me feel like some greedy villain. The worst part was when my mom sighed and said, "I thought we raised you better than this." Like I was the unreasonable one for wanting to keep my own home. For a couple of days, I actually started to doubt myself. Was I selfish? Should I just give in? But then I remembered. All those late nights scraping wallpaper, the weekends spent installing cabinets, the years I saved every extra penny to make this house mine. It wasn't just about the house. It was about the complete lack of respect for my boundaries, my hard work, my entire life. When I told Mark again that I wouldn't be giving them my house, he completely flipped out. Called me heartless. said I was tearing the family apart. He stormed off, and later that night, Jessica posted a long, dramatic Facebook rant about toxic relatives who turn their backs on family in their time of need. She didn't name me, but it was painfully obvious. Soon the messages started rolling in from extended family, guilt trips, accusations. I felt like I was being ganged up on from every single angle. And then the final straw. A text from Mark. If you don't do the right thing, don't expect to be part of our lives anymore. And that includes your nephew. If you thought that was bad, buckle up, because things took a turn I never ever saw coming. I honestly didn't think it could get any more ridiculous. I was wrong. After Mark and Jessica's dramatic exit and the Facebook rant, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd realize how insane their demand was. I figured they'd eventually move on. But no. A few days later, I came home from work to find an envelope taped to my front door. Inside, a notice of legal action. Yes, you read that right. My brother and his wife were trying to sue me for my own house. At first I thought it was a joke, a sick prank. But as I read through the documents, my stomach dropped. They were claiming the house was part of the family estate, that I'd unfairly claimed it without consideration for their needs. They were demanding I either sign over the deed or sell the house and split the proceeds with them. I was in complete disbelief. My grandparents left this house to me in their will. Explicitly. My name on it. I had nothing to do with their decision. But apparently Mark and Jessica felt entitled to just override that because they had a baby and I didn't. The next day I called my lawyer, still reeling. Thankfully, he reassured me their case was flimsy at best. The will is ironclad, no legal basis. Still, just knowing I'd have to deal with this mess? It made my blood boil. How dare they drag me into court over something that isn't even up for debate? But what truly pushed me over the edge was finding out who was bankrolling their lawsuit. My parents. My own parents. They were helping Mark and Jessica pay a lawyer to come after me. When I confronted them, my mom tried to justify it. We're just trying to make things fair for everyone. Fair? What about the years I spent saving and working to make this house a home? What about the fact that I didn't ask for this house? It was given to me. My dad was no better. We just don't want to see Mark and Jessica struggle. You're doing fine on your own. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told them flat out they were enabling Mark's entitlement, and I'd never forgive them if they kept pushing this. My mom started crying, saying, "I don't know what's happened to this family." Yeah, Mom, neither do I. And as if all that wasn't enough, Jessica took her campaign to social media, posting sob stories about how heartless I was for hoarding the family home, while their baby was crammed into a tiny apartment. She even posted pictures making their place look worse than it was, with captions like, "All we want is a safe space for our baby." Is that too much to ask? The comments were full of people sympathizing with her, saying things like, "Your sister should be ashamed. Family is supposed to support each other." I tried to ignore it, but then the messages started coming from extended family members, cousins, aunts, people I hadn't spoken to in years, all telling me I should do the right thing and help out. Some even accused me of being ungrateful for the inheritance. It was like they'd completely forgotten this is my house. At this point, I felt like I was losing my mind. Every time I tried to explain, I was met with guilt trips and accusations. It wasn't just the lawsuit or the social media drama. It was the fact that my own family had completely turned against me. I felt like I was fighting a battle I never asked to be part of. And then things took an even darker turn. While going through the legal documents again, I noticed something odd. Buried in the paperwork was a mention of a family agreement that I supposedly signed, stating the house was meant to be shared. I was confused. I'd never signed anything like that. When I showed it to my lawyer, he confirmed my worst fears. The signature was forged. I was livid. Who would stoop that low? My lawyer said it was likely Mark and Jessica, but proving it would take time. Meanwhile, they'd been telling everyone I was dragging out the legal process, just to spite them. As if that wasn't enough, I recently found out Jessica had been outright lying about their financial situation. A friend of mine saw her at a high-end baby store, dropping hundreds on designer nursery furniture. And get this, she was posting photos of their struggles, right alongside pictures of fancy dinners and spa days. So much for barely making ends meet. I started to wonder, had this been their plan all along? Did they see me as an easy target? Did they think I'd just roll over and hand them the house to avoid conflict? The thought made me sick. I've always tried to be there for my family, but this felt like a betrayal I couldn't come back from. The lawsuit was still ongoing, and my lawyer was confident we'd win. But the damage? It was already done. My relationship with my family felt broken beyond repair. Every time I thought about what they'd put me through, I felt this overwhelming mix of anger and sadness that I couldn't even describe. And the cherry on top? Mark showed up at my house again yesterday. He had the nerve to say, "You're going to regret this when the baby grows up. They'll know what kind of aunt you really are." I didn't even dignify it with a response. I just closed the door. I didn't know how this would end, but one thing was for sure. I wasn't giving up my house. If that made me the villain in their story, so be it. But here's where it all completely blew up, where the truth finally surfaced, and where my entire life perspective shifted. This isn't just about the house anymore. This is about a family secret that shattered everything. To recap, Mark and Jessica were suing me for my house. My parents were siding with them, even funding their legal fees. Things were tense, to say the least. But I was confident the case would fall apart because, well, the house is legally mine. What I didn't expect was for this fight to unearth a secret that would change everything. It started a few weeks ago. My lawyer requested some family documents, just to further disprove Mark and Jessica's claim that the house was some shared family inheritance. I didn't think much of it, standard procedure, right? But when the documents arrived, I noticed something strange. A file I'd never seen before, labeled with my grandparents' names, and dated decades before I was even born. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Inside were old letters, legal agreements, and a handwritten note from my grandmother. What I read made my stomach drop. Turns out, Mark isn't my full brother. He's my half-brother. Apparently, before my parents got married, my mom had an affair. Mark's biological father. My grandparents knew about it. They were furious, but they agreed to keep it a secret for family unity. The letters revealed that Mark's biological father had left a significant sum of money to my mom when Mark was born, with the understanding it would be used for his benefit. And my grandparents, they used part of that money to buy the very house that eventually became mine. I just sat there in shock, rereading the letters over and over. It felt like the ground beneath me had completely shifted. My entire life I believed we were a normal family. As normal as families get anyway. But this was a betrayal on so many levels. My mom had kept this secret for decades, and now it was coming to light in the ugliest way imaginable. At first I didn't know what to do. Should I confront my mom? Tell Mark? I decided to sit on it for a few days, trying to process everything. But of course, secrets like this have a way of exploding on their own. Last week, during another heated argument with Mark, he blurted out, "You don't even know the whole story. You're not the only one Grandma and Grandpa screwed over." I froze. I asked him what he meant, and that's when he dropped the bomb. He knew. He knew he wasn't my full brother. He'd known for years. Apparently, our mom told him the truth when he was a teenager. But instead of feeling betrayed by her, he felt like he was owed something more. Like the money his biological father left was rightfully his. That's why he feels entitled to the house. In his mind, it was bought with his inheritance, so it should go to him. I was speechless. I asked him why he didn't just say something earlier if he felt that way. And he said, "Because I knew you'd never give it up willingly." He admitted the lawsuit, the forged documents, even the social media campaign. It was all part of a calculated plan to pressure me into handing over the house. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just entitlement. This was calculated manipulation. And my parents, they were in on it. When I confronted them, they didn't even deny it. My mom just kept saying, "We just wanted to make things right for Mark." I asked her why she thought it was okay to lie to me, to let me believe this house was truly mine, only to turn around and help Mark try to take it from me. Her response, "We thought you'd understand. You have your whole life ahead of you. Mark needs this more." That was the moment. That was the absolute breaking point when I realized I couldn't trust them anymore. They didn't see me as their daughter. They saw me as an obstacle to Mark's happiness. I told them I wanted nothing to do with any of them until this mess was resolved. Since then I've been going through a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, sadness. I felt it all. But I've also started to feel a strange sense of relief. At least now I know the truth. I know why my family has treated me like an outsider. Why they've always bent over backward for Mark while expecting me to fend for myself. It doesn't make it hurt any less, but it gives me a terrifying, painful clarity. As for the lawsuit, my lawyer is preparing to counter their claims with everything we've uncovered. The forged documents alone are enough to sink their case, and I'm seriously considering pressing charges for fraud. Mark and Jessica are still doubling down, though. They're telling everyone I stole Mark's birthright. Some of our extended family has turned against me, but others, thankfully, have started to see through their lies. The house is still mine, and I'm not letting it go. But the cost of keeping it has been higher than I ever imagined. My relationship with my parents and Mark is completely destroyed. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them for what they've done. But one thing's for sure. I'm done being the family scapegoat. Honestly, I'm still trying to process all of this. It's like my whole life was a lie. What would you even do if your family turned on you like this, and then revealed a secret that changed everything? Have you ever faced such a profound betrayal? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to hear your perspective.